Greetings, cretins! My name's Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Welcome to Sim Sunday. That was... Can you believe that little chasing? That little chase there? It's funny to watch that because that's where, like... That's where it all began, man. That's where, like, the little RC car chasing stuff started. And it's completely insane to see, like, the progression between that and like what I've been doing lately. Admittedly, like, when there's not a racetrack, a defined racetrack, it becomes a lot harder because I have no idea what the car is going to do. Is it going to go left? Is it going to go right? Is it going to slow down? Is it going to speed up? So yeah, there's that. But I mean, yeah, it's kind of cool to see that. Putting some sakis on here. My feet is cold. This is a Q&A live stream as well. Any questions that you've got, drop them into the comments. I completely forgot that I'm just very used to Sunday at 3. I completely forgot that I was planning on doing jumping into Joshua's slot today, so apologize for that. For anybody that was here at 1 waiting for me. Sorry about that. But yeah, I figure there were... It's weird. The whole like jumping into Joshua's spot thing, like it seems like a great idea from a marketing standpoint, to try to like get some new people that were looking for Joshua. But then I feel bad for any of you loyal folks that are used to, you know, my time slot, and then all of a sudden you log on a couple minutes early and I'm just wrapping up. So I don't know. It's interesting. I'll try to take his slots when I can, but I'll forget pretty frequently and just do my regular time slot. So I don't know. Maybe that sort of works out, right? We are going to. Oh, cool. Robert G says Mads Tech took Joshua's slot today. That's awesome. That is perfect. His audience is like 10,000 times bigger than mine anyway, so that is beautiful. Something else that we're gonna do on today's stream is talk a little bit more about the sound pack, the CiottiFPV sound pack, and I've got a little bit of work to do. I'm gonna read through. I'm going to read through a bunch of, like 0.0, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, that Quadbod has requested of me. He says plus, right, for 11 to 25. So yeah, I'm going to go 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So yeah, I'll pull that up on screen and I'll kind of read through it. Quadbot is a not so evil genius, very genius, not so evil. And yeah, we'll get that going. Hey, Newbie Drone Flow 0802s for sale. 27,000 kV, best looking motor on the market. The hub design looks like a TE37, really famous Volk Racing Japan wheel. Car stuff, yo. Yeah, these are available. I'll sell them to you cheap. Message me. In the chat, Michael K was first. Freelojo was next. Dan Richmond, Hockey Rounds, Gusto, RT McKinney, Douglas Otwell, CH3FPV. What's next? Mark Jones, Bitterroot, Morton Upshot, Northern Tier. What's up, friends? Hi. If you want to talk directly to me in the chat, all I got to do is type CiottiFPV. My throat's been bothering me lately. If you type CiottiFPV, for me, it'll light up an orange like this, and I'll see what you're saying. Michael tagged me and said, hi! Freelojo tagged me and said, hello, is Gangly Gang. Denzel the Terrible says, is this where we come for the helicopter action? Yes, it is. CH3 says, what's up, Gangly Gangers? RT McKinney says, I knew I smelled something funny. Glad you put your socks on. Agreed. Agreed. What's happening here? Why is this still playing? This is weird. Okay. So, yeah. We got some stuff to do. We're going to be talking about throttle resolution and Throttle Expo. And maybe in a savage twist, we can dive right into that. What if we do that first? What'll happen? Will the world collapse in on itself if I get to the actual topic within the first hour of the stream? Is that maybe not a good idea? Because we've probably never done that before. We've done it before. It's happened once or twice. This is me toothbrushing out my transmitter. Keep your shit clean, folks. It works better. Dirt can get into stuff and make bad things. Use a toothbrush. Not the same toothbrush that you brush your tooths with. Get another toothbrush. Man, these transmitters get dirty as shit sometimes. It's because we use them flat, and then, like, you know, we're up here, like, scratching our face, and there's all shit floating on it. Oh, man. A clean transmitter. Is there anything better than a nice, clean transmitter? Because, goddamn, they're not clean often. Look at that. Look how clean that is. So this is my Edge TX transmitter. sort of backup transmitter, kind of, but not really. It's QX7S. It's what I use on the simulator, and at some point, this is going to be the Crossfire This is going to be the Crossfire transmitter. It's, you know, gray/black, so the Crossfire will match it. My other transmitter, the white one, is going to be the ELRS transmitter. But at the moment, I haven't moved the models over from this to this. This is my transmitter that I've been using forever, and I know it. It's perfect. It's good to go. So I just kind of keep using it. The whole EdgeTX thing, like, I know it's fine, but I don't know. It just freaks me out. OpenTX has been out forever. EdgeTX is not. I'm again, sure, it's totally fine. But yeah. Am I the only one that does this? Is this just me? Do you guys just let your shit get all disgusting and get rabies and herpes? No, you don't. You clean your shit. Look how dirty it gets in here. Like, all up in here. It gets so disgusting. Look at that. Oh! Tip number 1 for today. Clean your shit. Cleaning is also a form of meditation, believe it or not. Having a clean space is a good thing. And your brain will work a little bit better. And yeah, it's just a good thing. Take a little bit of time to do it. Make that your goal for today. Clean something up today. You filthy animals! Alright. That looks way better. I figured, you know, since I had the toothbrush out. Because it takes so long to get it out, I have to, like, reach over here and, like, oh, open this drawer. Oh, look what I have to do. Look how difficult it is to get the toothbrush out. I have to reach all the way over here. Oh, it's so far. Oh, and now I gotta pull. Oh, God. Oh, I need support. Nom. I gotta pull all the way over, and then I gotta reach, and then take it out. No, I can't just take it out. It's too long. See, I gotta twist it sideways. Oh, I gotta twist sideways. Oh, God. I don't know, man. Your guess is as good as mine. Let's get into Velocidrone, yo! Powering up by QX6X, QX7S, QX something. What is it, QX7? QX7. Testing warning. Used for tests only, it says. Well, OpenTX warning. Not OpenTX, EdgeTX warning. CiottiFPV says, I'm planning a build with a Fractal 75 Pro Max that is actually 84 millimeters, either 1S or 2S analog, probably 2S. Nice. Nice. I don't really have anything. I'm biting my tongue saying anything bad about the 75 Pro. I mean, it's, you know, if you're gonna fly it outside, then the bigger props are not the end of the world. Like, it's what gets me is that by going to the bigger props, you only have one propeller selection, but that propeller selection that you've got is really good. They're GemFan props and they're awesome. So it's like, you know, on one hand it's like, well, just stay with regular 75. But on the other hand, it's like, you've got a great propeller selection. Bigger props are going to be more efficient and make more power. If you're putting it in the Fractal frame, well, so here's the other thing, right? You're forcing yourself to only be able to use the one duct from the Meteor 65 or Meteor 75 Pro frame. That duct seems to be okay. I haven't heard great things about it in terms of reliability, durability. So there's that. Like, you're being forced into using a duct that is maybe not the most durable. I think that the Mobula 7 V4 ducts are still the most durable, but I haven't heard a ton of complaints about the 75 Pro ducts, so they're probably fine. You know what I mean? Like it's interesting. Usually, when we have a wacky size like that, the propeller selection is not the best that there is, right? That's what kind of makes it make sense, is that, yeah, You get a bigger, more efficient, more thrusty propeller, and your one propeller option is awesome. So yeah, it's super interesting. I'm, of course, super tempted to do some testing with it, but I don't want to run it in the bigger frame, and I don't really like the Fractal frames, so I don't think I'm going to test it. I don't think I'm going to test the 75 Pro stuff. Plus, the regular 75 stuff makes plenty of power and efficiency for me. So, like, I want to test it for you guys, but I don't think... Yeah. I think the 75s are completely fine. I think I would be testing it... Here it is. I try not to test stuff just for the sake of testing it. And I feel like that's what this would be. I feel like that's what this would be, me just testing it for the sake of testing it. And then it's like, oh, it's great. And then people go out and spend a bunch of money on it that already have 75s, expecting it to be like a lot better, and it's not going to be a lot better. So like if you don't have a 75 already, it's one thing. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. RT McKinney uses canned air. You're killing the ozone. No, they took that shit out of the... They took that propellant out a long time ago. CH3 says, make it 1S, the 75 Pro Max, but which motors? 1002, EX802, 25,000. So CH3, that right there is one of the big problems, and that is why I kind of want to test it. But again, I'm probably not gonna. I don't know. I know what works with the 1.6 inch props on the 75 millimeter motor to motor builds, but nobody's been doing these, like, I don't know, what are they, 1.7, 1.8, 1.9 inch props. Nobody really knows what they match best with. My guess is going to be that you might actually want to go up to a 1002, but the problem you're going to run into is that there aren't any 1002s that are a high enough KV, I don't think. I mean, if you're going to go to a 1002, get the highest KV one, which is from CiottiFPV, where I have an affiliate link, and it's the Flywoo, and it's 23,500 KV. So if you're going to go the 1002 route, get those motors, and get the 3-blade gem fan props and the bi-blade gem fan props. And, yeah, there you go. If you go 802s might be able to handle the bi-blade propellers. And if you were to do that, yeah, if you were going to do that, I would probably go with the snowblower motors, to be honest. The 802, or sorry, if you wanted to go lightweight and not use the 1002s, the snowblower 802s would probably be your best bet at 25,000 kV with a 1.5 millimeter motor shaft, and then you're going to pair those with the bi-blades. Those 802s, I can almost guarantee you, will not work with the tri-blades. I mean, they'll work, obviously, but they won't work well with the tri-blades. So, yeah, that's how I would decide. If you do the 1002s, you can play around with 2 or 3-blade props. If you do the 802s, you're pretty much locking yourself into the bi-blades, which is not a bad thing. But if you ever want to do like really tight, racy, carvy stuff and not have and have more grip, the tri-blades are going to definitely do a better job at that versus the bi-blades, which are more for freestyle stuff where you want more slidiness, more float, more coolness. CiottiFPV says, I'm having terrible battery sag with a 65mm Walksnail build. What the fuck is happening outside? 802, 25,000 kV, Flywoo 1S flight controller. Any tips to reduce it? I think the Flywoo flight controller is the problem. I seem to remember Quad66 mentioning that the new... mentioning that the new Flywoo 1S to 2S. Well, so it depends. If that Flywoo flight controller is the 1S 2S one, I'm pretty sure I remember Quad 6.6 having problems with it on 1S, but it was working fine on 2S. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Quad 6.6 Flywoo. Yeah, here you go. Unicorn board stumbles out of the 1S gate. So, here's a link. Watch this video. I think he talks about it. I think Quad 6.6 talks about it in there. It's in one of these. It's in one of these videos where he's talking about the Flywoo F405 12 amp. So yeah. If you guys aren't subscribed to Quad 6.6, I don't know what you're doing with your lives. Get off your ass and get over there and subscribe. It's a great channel. He really knows what he's doing. I'm pretty sure it's in here. I'm pretty sure it's in this video. But if it's not in this video, do this search. Search for Quad 6.6 space Flywoo, and it'll be in one of these other ones. But I'm pretty sure it's in this top one here that I dropped you the link to. Cool. Peter Savas says, just tested 0702 23,000 kV with 4-blade 1209. Terrible 18.5 gram mobile. Yeah. The 4-blade propellers for tiny whoops are just way too heavy. And by the time you get up to a big enough motor that can handle the quad blade props, now the rig is overweight and too fat. So yeah, I've yet to find any quad blade propellers that make any sense on the tiny whoops. Back in the days of brushed motors, we used to run the quad blades because for some reason they did make they seemed to make ever so slightly more power. And back then, the biggest problem, like if all of the problems with flight characteristics of tiny whoops were here, the problem all the way up here, with no problems in between, was a lack of power. So back in the day, we used to just do everything and anything we possibly could to make a little bit more power, flight characteristics be damned, on the tiny whoops. And yeah, 0702s, I don't even like 0702s on tri-blades. Yeah, they feel really overpropped on tri-blades. So quad blades is going to make that way, way, way worse. Let's get it going. Velocidrone coming up. Launcher doing launcher things. Hey, this is my full-time job, friends. If you like these live streams and you'd like to see them continue, I'm completely crowdfunded. I would love your help on this crazy FPV journey. If you go over to CiottiFPV.com, this is what you'll see. It's got my stream schedule here with a link to YouTube, all of my contact info up here. Patreon, as it says, helps me the most for sure. You can join the Patreon for $3 a month. That will be 7.5 cents per hour of live streams that I do. If these live streams are worth a little bit more than that for you, you can actually enter to win some giveaways. The $5 a month tier will enter you to win giveaways. Tomorrow is not the giveaway live stream. Next Monday is the giveaway live stream, so you've got some time to jump in. Yeah, $5 a month will enter you into the Tiny Whoop and Toothpick giveaways the first Monday of every single month. $10 a month will enter you to win 3-inch micro brushless and Cinewhoop parts on those giveaway live streams. And then the third giveaway I do is for 5-inch parts, and that tier is $20 a month. If you fly all of the quads and you want to be entered to win all of the things, there's a $30 tier that'll put you into everything. So a lot of different ways that you can get some cool benefits. Everybody that joins the Patreon, though, gets full access to my Discord, 2 different Facebook groups, private Facebook groups for just us, a whole bunch of technical articles up on the Patreon channel, and a YouTube playlist with almost 90 unreleased edits, half-done edits, sketchy flying, Patreon-only live streams, all kinds of good stuff. So help me out and join the Patreon. It's the thing that you can do that helps me the most. Etsy, over on Etsy, I've got some fun stuff, as well as Teespring as well. Over on Fiverr, we can work one-on-one, flight instruction, tuning, build planning, or just whatever you need. I've been doing this for over 7 years. I can help you be better at any number of different things. You know, you can spend a ton of time digging all this stuff up on YouTube and Google, or you can pay somebody to you know, dump all that knowledge on you all at once. What's your time worth is sort of the question at the end of the day. You can PayPal me if you want to support me directly, but you don't want YouTube to take 30%, which is what they do with Super Chats. And then I've got all these affiliate links. Whenever you're doing an order on one of these websites, if you can hit my affiliate link at any point before you check out, I'll get some money for free. It's 1 to 6% of your total order. We Bleed FPV, Newbie Drone, FPV Cycle, Amazon, Get FPV, Oh My God, HD Zero, Flywoo, Emacs, Banggood, Camera Butter, and AliExpress. And then there's some other fun stuff at the bottom here that might make you giggle. That's how it works, friends. That's how you keep me going and doing these live streams. Freelojo dropping the Patreon link. Thank you, dude. CH3 says, thanks a lot. The Flywoo Robo 1002 25,000s versus RCinpower 1002 22,000s. The RCinpowers are great motors, but they're not as high of a KV. So, like, and 22,000 kV is not enough. 23,500 is not enough either, but 23,500 is the highest that we've got access to, so that's the ones that we want to run. Yeah, the RCinpowers are great, but 22 is just not enough, even for 75 millimeter. It's a shame. I wish more of these companies would make 25, 26, 27, 28,000 1002s, and then we could really have some ripping 75 millimeter rigs, but they don't. Because they suck. Just kidding. They don't suck. They just don't listen, basically. But the better way of thinking of that is that we're not screaming loud enough. We're not yelling loud enough that we need higher KVs. Not enough people are yelling it, and the people that are yelling it are not yelling it loud enough. So I got more work to do, yo. I got to keep spreading the word, and you should too. Because yeah, I mean, 1S 75 millimeter rigs are a real thing. Like for bashing around jungle gyms, they're pretty amazing. And I've shown that the 802s at 25 and 27,000 kV make a horrendous amount of extra power compared to the 23,500 1002s, and they still stay cool enough. So that's like kind of the end. Like that is like that's like damning evidence, you know, that you can't really argue against that unless you're racing. Like if you're racing 75 millimeter rigs, you know, you might need that bigger heat sink that the 1002 is. So yeah, but for freestyle stuff, for farting around in the backyard, front yard, yeah, the 25,000, 27,000 kV thing is a really big deal. It really brings a 75 millimeter rig to life. And the GemFan biblades are just brilliant. Like as much as I'm into the 1608 new GemFan tri-blades, the biblades just fly better in both 1.2 inches and 1.6 inches. So, you know. Velocidrone is up. Hold on. I forgot to get the I forgot to pull the chat over. There we go. There we go. Bird is the word, Freelojo says. Morton Opshot says, you feel the Vision 40 is underpowered. Oh, big time. Yeah, I mean, it's... The main reason that it's underpowered, though, is that it's carrying the Walksnail around. But, yeah, it made more power than I thought it would, that's for sure. But I was expecting it to be really bad. So, yeah. Although, and here's the other thing, though. Once you're carrying around the Walksnail setup, I'm not gonna freestyle that hard. Like, you're not gonna see me bouncing the Walksnail 75 rig off of jungle gyms. Like, the camera and VTX are just kind of too expensive, and the way that they're mounted is not all that strong. So trying to do like hardcore freestyle with the Vision 40 is, in my opinion, gonna end pretty quickly and pretty badly. Like, just having those long screws running down through the PCBs with no support from the top, and then they run down into a tiny little plastic cup. Like, that's just gonna rip those plastic cups off over and over and over again. Like, that's gonna be such a pain in the ass. And every time that happens, you're gonna have to do a full frame swap. So you're gonna have to pull all the motors off. You're gonna have to pull everything completely out. And I try not to recommend builds that are gonna be a nightmare to work on, because it just kind of sucks. And those are the builds that you end up putting on the shelf, and they don't come off the shelf because every time you fly it, it explodes. So, yeah. You know, what I talk about is mostly like hardcore freestyle stuff that flies like really, really, really good. Great power to weight ratio, great flight performance, and you know, it's gonna those things are gonna allow you to shoot gaps that you wouldn't normally be able to shoot, for example, and to just do stuff that is at. I want you to have a quad. And I want me to have a quad that will allow me to push my skills all the way to the limit. I do not want to have a build that I can't do stuff on because of the build. I want to be able to not shoot the dive gap because I'm not good enough, not because the quad won't do it, right? So that's what I'm always going for, is like the absolute best performing rig to bring out the best, you know, to essentially make me look the best as a pilot. And that's not really why I'm doing it, but you guys know what I mean, right? So, yeah, and I try to do that for all of you beautiful bastards as well. Let's go glide. Let's continue. Let's go to create session. The name of the session is going to be CiottiFPV. I saw somebody in chat mention a map in here, but let me make sure I'm caught up on chat real quick. Yeah, we're good. CH3 says, let's fly the CPP California Freestyle map in Polyworld. So let's take a look here. We're going to go to empty Polyworld. What is it called? CPP California Freestyle? Alright, maybe it's in... Maybe there's a regular Polyworld. Well, there's a dynamic Polyworld. Let's check there. Adam's Family. What the hell's that? Nah, it doesn't look like it's here either. Is there just a regular Polyworld? Yeah, there is. There it is. CPP California Freestyle. Let's take a look. See what this is. Look at that thing. Look at that thing. All right. What's this all about? CPP. What is this? Where are we? CPP. Is this like a real spot? Ah! All right, hold on. Is this like a real spot that that somebody programmed in? It strikes me as maybe that. No, maybe it's not now. CPP. What the hell does CPP stand for, I wonder? Hey, easy. Easy. Don't kill me. Oh, God! Yeah, it's a real spot, CH3 says. Really? How do I not... Why do I not recognize... I guess I kind of recognize this parking garage, but I feel like I recognize this parking garage from like a Florida spot, maybe. I'm assuming this over here is the real spot. CPP, whose spot is this? Wait a second, this is a Florida spot, isn't it? This is the Florida spot with the big holes that Rotor Riot flies out all the time, isn't it? Is that what this is? Why would it say California? Fuck. It's hard to get that. It's hard to get up in there. Oh, he made it. Or am I mistaken? Maybe this spot is in Florida, or maybe this spot is in California, and I just didn't realize it. The holes. Oh God, I got a little carried away with the gas pedal on that one. This quad has a lot of power. I'm not really used to it. June Logo says, no, that's the Panoma spot. Who's got a flight video here? Man, that's interesting. It's hard to get lined up for these holes. Oh, really? It didn't make it? College campus? CCP? I'll be damned. How am I completely unaware of this spot? It's a popular enough spot to get a map made for it in Velocidrone. Cal Poly Panoma. Huh. Who's got a flight video from this spot that I can check out? Look at this. There's a little... Oh, there's a waterfall. Okay. Alright, folks. So we're going to talk about throttle resolution today. Right after I dive this. Oh, I hit the water. Oh, boy. Oh my God, what is happening? Floaty rig is floaty. Hold on, let me just explore the rest of this real quick. Got a little Mavic view of this map. Little winding river. Very cool. Okay. Alright, so that's the full map. Feel safe in a sim, yeah, right? What's over here? Anything? No, nothing. Down we go. What kind of cars we got over here? Okay, okay. Little Tesla Roadster, I think. Little Volkswagen camper van. A Toyota Hilux with a fucking 50 cal mounted. I didn't expect that. That looks like a old school Ford F-150, maybe Chevy, I'm not sure. What are you? I don't know what you are. That almost looks like an 86, A86. Oh, tell me this is a fucking Volvo station wagon. Nah, it's a little hatchback. Oh, God. I like that little slot. Where's that little slot at? Here it is. I'm a big fan of slots, yo. I'm a slot guy. Give me a slot, and I'll rip it. Ooh, the back of this truck is open. This quad has way too much power. I added a lot of power to this rig to be able to keep up with the drift cars. I am going to take some of that power out because I'm having a problem with it. It's there is such a thing as too much power, and we're going to talk about that when we talk about throttle resolution here today. Yeah, so got some of that power out of it. Quad mass is fine. Do I have to like apply this? No. Alright. Alright, cool. That should feel a little bit better. RT McKinney says you will stick it in the slot. Oh my God, it went directly into the slot. Yeah, slot life is good life, yo. If you can find a spot with a slot, it's very challenging. It really teaches you to level your horizon. And then it looks really cool to do stuff in here. Like even just a simple roll, the whole world explodes. Slots are really fun. And you can usually find slots like this exactly where you're seeing this, like right next to parking garages. I've got one, well, I had one when I lived in Alpharetta that was right next to my apartment that had like a 3-story slot like this. And man, that's some adrenaline pumping shit. Because on the left and right of the slot, it's concrete, and it hurts. But at the same time, like, everything you do in the slot looks cool. Like, every single thing you do, just like big... Oh boy. Big, like, laid out power loops like we were doing a second ago. Look really cool. And then the slot is a great place to learn Matty flip stuff because you have a lot to reference off of. So when you come up in here, you can, like, have the sides to reference off. Right? See what I mean? So yeah, find you a slot. And slot it up, bro. Alright, friends. Now that we're done sticking it in the slot. Hold on. Matthew Karam says, on my new Mobula 6 rig, the camera kind of goes out of focus every once in a while, then goes back to normal a second later. What could be causing this rig? No big crash. That doesn't make any sense. The focus is completely fixed on these cameras. My suspicion would be that you're maybe getting some jello or some vibration. So check the camera mounting. Make sure the camera is not able to come loose. Also, make sure that the lens isn't falling off of the body of the camera. But yeah, these cameras are fixed focus. They should never go out. They should either be in focus or out of focus. That's crazy. And usually if the lens is loose, it'll just go fuzzy and then that's that. It usually won't come back to being in focus. So that's crazy. But yeah, check that. Check all those things. Let's talk about throttle resolution. I can pretty accurately tell exactly... Wait, hold on. Shout out to CiottiFPV, Chris King, for a $20 PayPal during our last live stream. I think I caught it, but I just want to make sure I give Stavel his shout out. And then Joshua Moore jumped onto the Patreon. Welcome to the gangliest of gangs, Joshua. Thank you for the support. Much appreciated. Mark this as red. No. Mark is unread, rather. And I think there might have been one more. Let me just double check. Nah, we're good. We're good. Wesley Clark, thanks for joining the Patreon. Yo, welcome to the Gangly Gang. Thank you for your support. Wesley just joined. Very cool. Okay, is somebody else going to join today? I'll wait. I will not wait. I love you guys. You're the best. If you aren't on the Patreon, you're going to like the Patreon, I promise. Blipshift is doing a lot of shirts right now. Oh. Okay, we good to go. Go away, AT&T. Matthew Graham says, it's like everything seems slightly fuzzy for a little. It mostly happened when I was using a different font for my OSD. That's interesting. I mean, OSD does put like a layer to draw the OSD on. So I guess, technically speaking, there could be something going on there. There could be some weird OSD shit going on. Very weird. Check all those things first, though. Check all the mechanical things first. Huh. Interesting. I'm like racking my brain to try to think of what could cause intermittent fuzziness. Oh man, this vinyl that I've been looking for forever is, oh man. That's dope. Yeah, this album I've been looking for forever. I've had a eBay alert. And this is actually the cheapest I've ever seen it, but this is just such a stupid amount. Like, I refuse to spend more than like $30 on a record because I'm not going to really listen to it much. But I love this album. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. But yeah, this is actually the cheapest I've ever seen this. And this is the cool one, the really cool looking album. But that's okay. I shall wait longer. The waiting game continues. Okay, cool. So, throttle resolution. I can pretty accurately tell how long somebody's been flying within about a minute of seeing them fly. And it's mainly from throttle resolution, where they are, sorry, throttle control, rather. And just how good they are at it. Like, folks that are really good at throttle control have been flying a long time. There's almost nothing that you can do as a cheat code to help with throttle resolution. RT McKinney says, I'm out of focus. All right, so that is back focused, and we're gonna pull just a little bit here. There we go. So yeah, but there is one thing that is a cheat code that does help a ton. It's not free. It comes with downsides, but the downsides are typically worth it as long as you don't get too carried away with it. And it's called Throttle Expo. And so we're going to look at it. No, I don't think we need to look at it in beta flight. Hold on, let me see. Let me see if Velocidrone will show us the overlay that we need. So in Velocidrone, you can go down here to the bottom right corner, menu. And then you can go to advanced drone setup, and this brings up PIDs and rates and Throttle Expo down here in the corner. And you can see I've already got some added in. I've got 0.2 of Throttle Expo, and I've got my midpoint set to 0.4. And we're going to talk about them more, how you do that. But what I want to draw your attention to is this down here. And I'm going to zoom a little bit on it. Okay. All right, so down here is a graph of the circle represents your throttle stick. The yellow line represents your throttle curve. If I take the Throttle Expo out and I zero it, we now have no throttle curve. It is completely linear. If I move the yellow ball to 50%, I get 50%. And that's what this means here. 50% equals 50%. When I give 50% throttle, it's going to give 50% of the available power. So when we start to add Throttle Expo in, and I'm going to add a shitload of it so that it's really obvious, you'll see that it starts to curve. And the center point of the curve is whatever your midpoint is. So now, when I give it 50% throttle, my throttle stick is right now at 50%. It's actually only going to give me 41% of the available power because of the Throttle Expo curve and mainly because of my throttle midpoint. And the throttle midpoint is super important. You need that throttle midpoint to be whatever your cruising throttle is. Because the whole idea behind Throttle Expo is that so I've got the midpoint set at 0.4. So what that should mean is that when I'm cruising, when I'm holding elevation, and when I'm cruising at whatever my normal cruise speed is, my throttle stick is at roughly like 40%, basically. Let me double check. Let me double check something real quick here. Let me make sure that this is actually at 50. Yep. It is actually at 50. All right, perfect. So yeah, if you have a quad that with, So this is the full, this is how you do this. You zero out your Throttle Expo. And then you go and you fly the rig around. And when I did that in here, I noticed that around 40% throttle. Well, so let's do it. Okay. So here's how you set your Throttle Expo. I'm going to show you the whole sequence. We have no Throttle Expo whatsoever right now, right? We have none. So we're going to get up here. Unfortunately, we can't add OSD elements into Velocidrone. In the real world, what you would do is put your throttle value OSD element in your OSD, and then right now, as you're just cruising around at whatever your normal speed is, you would just look at that throttle value and see roughly where it is. Since Velocidrone won't allow me to add throttle to the OSD, I'm going to have to look at my transmitter. So I'm going to get into a good steady cruise, and now I'm going to look down at my transmitter, and I need to make the screen give me the numerical values. And what I'm seeing is negative 23, negative 24, negative 20, negative 19, negative 29, negative 24, negative 23. All right, so now, negative 23. When I go to 50% throttle on the transmitter, it's 0. And then when I go down to 0 throttle, it's negative 100. So I was hovering around the negative 20s, negative 30s, and that's basically about 40% throttle. It's a little bit lower than 40% throttle, I think, but it's about 40% throttle on the stick. Halfway is 0, down a little bit to negative 20 is roughly 40%, right? The full travel is 200, right? So negative 20 to negative 30 is 50% and then just down a little bit, right? 35 to 40% would be my guess. You can do the math if you want. So now we know that when I'm cruising around, my typical throttle that I use is 40%. So your midpoint needs to be 40% in that case. And you are going to move your you are going to play with your midpoint a little bit. So that's not like a number that you're just going to set and leave alone forever. That's your starting point. Fly around with no Throttle Expo. Take notice of what your normal throttle percentage is that you cruise at. You want to fly at your regular spot. Like if you fly at like a huge field all the time, you're probably going to have a cruising throttle percentage that's a little bit higher because you're going faster in that field. If you fly at small little technical spots a lot, you're typically going to have a lower throttle amount. That's also really important to understand, because if you just set your throttle midpoint and you leave it forever, if you go to a bigger spot, it's not going to work as well. You would want to move it up a little bit for a bigger spot. If you go to a smaller spot, you would actually want to move it down. So your throttle midpoint, initially here, you want to get a general idea, and then you're going to dial it in moving forward. And you can just, you know, like when you're flying a small spot, you can just move it down by 5 points. When you're flying a big spot, you can move it up by 5 points. That's a good kind of round number. But there's an even better way to dial your midpoint in for each different spot that you fly. And I'm going to show you that as well. This is a medium-sized spot. We're going to go to a bigger spot. We're going to go to a much smaller spot. And I'm going to show you how to move that the Throttle Expo midpoint around. So we know that we want the midpoint as a starting value to be 40%. Now we need to figure out how much expo we want. And when you're first trying to figure this out, I recommend a lot of Throttle Expo, because that way you're going to really feel and be able to tell what the hell it's doing. So let's again take a look at this little overlay down here. So with 0 Throttle Expo. Completely linear. Right? Once we start to add Throttle Expo, and I'm going to add a shitload of it, I'm going to add 0.5, it's going to put a big-ass S-curve in our throttle. So that at our hover point, we're going to get more sensitivity. Just like Expo does for our rate curves. So now, so let me do this. I'm gonna give you a visual representation of what happens. So I'm gonna fly around for a minute with 0 Expo, and I want you to notice my elevation control. I want you to notice how much I'm bouncing up and down. All right, so this is no Throttle Expo. And I'm gonna try to concentrate. I'm gonna try to fly low to the ground. And not mash into trees. So I'm gonna fly as low as I can. So also take notice of how often I'm hitting the ground, because that's not good. So I'm flying as low as I possibly can, and hopefully you can notice that I'm bouncing up and down a good amount, and I keep hitting the ground. Sometimes I bounce up to jump over objects, but see how I'm hitting the ground? See how, like, it's... And I mean, I'm pretty good at throttle control. And, like, if I did this a bunch, I would certainly get a little bit more used to it and get better, but that's not the point. The point is to make the digital shit work for you. Alright? So, there's your baseline. I hit the ground a good amount. I was a little bit bouncy up and downy. Not terrible, but also not the best. And again, notice how often I'm hitting the ground. I'm not doing that on purpose, I swear. Now we're going to come in, and we're going to add a shitload of Throttle Expo. I'm actually going to add more than I usually run, because I really want this to be a kind of a drastic thing for you. There we go. Alright, so now we've got a lot of Throttle Expo. And I've got that And I've got that midpoint dialed in. Look at the difference. Now, this might be a little bit weird, because I don't usually run this much, but give me a second to get used to it. It's more than I usually run. I'm much more used to 0 Expo than 50. Can you guys tell? I sincerely hope that you can tell the difference. Can you, like, look at the difference in smoothness in terms of elevation. And I've only hit the ground like that one time. See what I'm saying? See how much smoother it makes it? And now, look what I can do with the throttle. I'm gonna bounce the throttle like this. Look back and forth between the throttle bouncing and what's going on the screen. Look how hard it is to notice, even though I bounce the throttle. See how much I'm bouncing the throttle, but you can't even tell. If you didn't have the throttle overlay, if you couldn't hear me bouncing the throttle, you wouldn't even know that I was bouncing the throttle, would you? Right? Now watch this. Easy, phone, easy. Now watch this. I'm going to take that Expo out. And now look at the difference. By the way, this is the shit that I teach. Oh, fart. This is one of the many things that I teach on the Fiverr sessions. So if you want all of this one-on-one, yeah, I got you covered, yo. I'd love to work one-on-one with you. Watch this. Watch the difference. It's not as obvious as I thought. Yeah, you can see it. No, you can see it though. Yeah, you can see it, right? When you do this for yourself, you're certainly gonna feel it. Good God, you will absolutely feel it. You really, really will. It's much more difficult than I thought for me to show it, but you'll see what I mean. All right, so you now know your throttle midpoint, and you're gonna start to figure out how we're gonna start to figure out how much Throttle Expo we want. Here are some general guidelines. Well, hold on. Before I go there, let me talk about the bad side of Throttle Expo. You might at this point be thinking, well, fuck it, I'll just turn the Throttle Expo all the way up. Let's do it. Let's turn it all the way up. We'll turn the Throttle Expo up to the max, which is 1.0. All right, now look at this curve. Look at this curve. All right, so when we're at 40% throttle, it's going to be really soft. But then when we're below that, it's going to fall off like crazy. And then when we're above that, it's going to go ballistic. I've never done this before. Let me see what this flies like. This is super interesting. Whoa. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Woo, boy. Holy shit. Look how much I can bounce the throttle with like no effect. Look at that. So that's more than likely too much Throttle Expo. And when you do this, you're gonna really be able to feel it. It's gonna feel really weird. It feels completely dead. Like nothing really happens. Look how much I can move the throttle. And like nothing happens. So this is too much. What happens when you have it like this, man, I let that hang. What happens when you have it like this is down low, you lose a lot of resolution. And so when you're trying to fly slow, see how bouncy I am? This is because I'm outside of that throttle midpoint. So if you have too much expo added in, if you're flying too fast or too slow, you're going to be outside of that window where it's helping, and you're going to be into a window where it's hurting you. And we can see here that with this setup, it's really difficult for me to hover cleanly because I'm down out of that throttle midpoint range. I could just change I could lower the throttle midpoint, but then when I'm cruising, I would be out of the range and it would be too sensitive when I'm cruising. So this current setup with too much expo is really bad if I try to fly slow. It's also going to be really bad if I try to fly fast. So if I try to fly fast and I'm up at the top of the throttle, it's going to make big changes in the amount of thrust from small changes that I'm making on the stick. You see how kind of jumpy it is? It's just hard to fly it like this. Like all these little changes that I'm making, since I'm outside of the midpoint, are making big changes. So what I want you to do when you're dialing this in is I want you to put the throttle expo really high, like I just did, because that's going to help you feel what it's doing. And then I want you to take it out again. Take the throttle expo all the way out. And you're really going to be able to tell what it's doing at that point. And then it's a pretty personal decision. So here's where I'm at. I've been using Throttle Expo for many years. What I do is for the throttle, the midpoint is different with every single quad, with every single set of propellers, everything. Everything changes the midpoint. You have to set that midpoint on each individual rig. That's just the way that it is. You also use rigs differently. Some rigs you'll fly slowly, your midpoint's going to be a little lower. Some rigs you fly faster, your midpoint's going to be a little bit higher. But the midpoint is completely dependent upon the rig. I cannot help you with the midpoint at all, other than to say that it's usually somewhere around 40%. It's usually from 30 to 50%. But if you're flying a race rig, it ain't going to be there. It's going to be sky high, 60, 70% probably. So the throttle midpoint is on you. The throttle expo amount, how much of an S we put in that curve. On Cinewhoops with 702, 30,000, 32,000 kV motors, I have to run that throttle expo all the way up at 40%. in order to fly low to the carpet, but also be able to do the full throttle tricks and be able to like have enough power to do the crazy stuff. 0.4 Throttle Expo is a lot, but it's not that much. And with Cinewhoops, we really are flying them around at the cruising throttle most of the time, and then just doing quick blasts of throttle. So Cinewhoops with 0702 crazy KV motors, 0.4 is my personal sweet spot for the Throttle Expo. And then the throttle mid is different on every Cinewhoop. For Cinewhoops, which you're mainly flying slow, kind of fly them like a Cinewhoop, 40% Throttle Expo. But with a Cinewhoop, you're going to be varying the throttle midpoint more frequently, because you're going to go to a spot that's really big, and Cinewhoops are inherently very slow, so you're going to use a shitload of throttle at a spot that's big with a Cinewhoop, and you need to move that throttle midpoint up, or the throttle is going to feel terrible. It's going to feel really sensitive. So keep that in mind with Cinewhoops, is that you got to be really careful of your throttle midpoint, and you got to be willing to move it around. It's in the OSD. You can do it on the fly if you're analog. If you're not analog, hopefully you're jailbroken or whatever the hell it is, or Walksnail, or have access to the full OSD. Freestyle rigs, 5-inch, 3-inch, whatever. I only run those at a Throttle Expo of about 10 or 20, because freestyle rigs are super versatile. You fly them fast, you fly them slow, and personally, I don't focus as much on the tuning. I focus more on my flying with freestyle rigs. So yeah, I like to run a lot less Throttle Expo on those, because again, the Throttle Expo, it does not come for free. If you crank the Throttle Expo up a lot, it's going to feel great right in here. This is the area that's going to feel great, the flat spot. But then up here, it's going to feel like ass. And down here, it's going to feel like ass. So if you're doing a building dive, so for example, if you're using a shitload of Throttle Expo like this, and you're doing a building dive, you fly up to the top of the building, you get to the top of the building, you chop the throttle, on the way down the building, you're in here. You're using this throttle value. And this steep ass curve is a nightmare. Because look, when you go from, so look at these numbers. When you go from, and my transmitter is not zeroing out, but when you go from 2% on your stick, it's going to give you 7% throttle on the quad. If you go up to 3% on the stick, it's going to jump you all the way up to 10%. When you go to 4% on the stick, it jumps you all the way up to 12%. So down here, it's actually hurting you. And a freestyle rig, you're going to spend more time down here and up here than on a lot of other rigs. And this is why it's also sort of like each person is going to have their own throttle midpoint, their own Throttle Expo amount. So again, I'm giving you a couple of guidelines, but you really need to play around with this to dial it in. And if you do that, if you put the time in to dialing this in, I promise you, it is going to make your flight footage look so much better. It's going to make you have more fun, because you're going to be able to slam down on the deck and not bounce all over the damn place. You're going to be able to just slam down and lock in. But you have to be willing to change these and play around with these and understand these to get the midpoint and the expo amount dialed in, for all the reasons that I said so far, but also because as you change the midpoint, it's going to bleed over a little bit into the expo amount. So you're going to be kind of bouncing back and forth between the two of them a little bit. You're going to do everything I told you so far. You're going to get your general midpoint set. You're going to screw around with the expo amount to see how much you personally like. And then you're going to go back to the throttle midpoint. And you're going to adjust that up and down a little bit to see if it feels better or if it feels worse. And that's what I want to show you now. So, let's say that we've decided on 1.0 Throttle Expo. All the Throttle Expo in the world. You're not going to want to do this, but I want to do this to really drastically show you what's going on. So, we've got a midpoint of 0.4 and full expo. So let's go to a map with buildings. Let's go to city, because I want to show you the problem with too much throttle expo. All right. So full throttle doesn't really matter. If you're cruising around, it feels great. But watch this. So I'm pretty good about sticking close to the side of buildings on dives. But right now, it's way, man, it's really hard to show you guys this because I'm just sort of adapting. Yeah, I mean, I'm able to adapt. When you do it, you'll really be able to feel a difference. Yeah, it's hard for me to show it. But what I can tell you is that right now, with too much throttle expo, it's way more difficult than it normally is to stick to the side of this building. But then when I go to cruise around, it feels kind of okay, although it feels kind of dead. Like, I can move the throttle too much. I don't need to be able to move the throttle as much as I currently am. Like, this is overkill. Like, look, I can fly there, and I can move the throttle up significantly, and it's just like, yeah, this is too much. This is too much throttle expo. Alternatively... Oh, it was only at 0.2. No wonder why I was able to adapt. All right, hold on. Hold on. There we go. Okay. It reset it with the... Oh! Have I not been hitting save? I feel like it's been saving. Whatever. All right, let's see if that is... That should be significantly harder. So you got to see me do it with a little bit. Oh, boy. Oh my god, yeah. Wow, okay. You guys should be able to see this. I mean, that right there, like, I wasn't trying to screw that up. Like, I just couldn't. Yeah, okay. See how much, yeah. See, like, one little blip, and it threw me all the way off the side of the building. Remember a minute ago, I was like, blip, 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 blip. Look at that. Look at that. Just one little blip, and it pulls me all the way out of the building. There it is. That's too much throttle expo. See that? I can't get down on the side of the building because every little throttle blip, like I showed you a minute ago, when I add 2% throttle, it's getting me all the way up to 8% throttle. When I add 3% throttle, it's boosting me all the way up to 10 or 11 or whatever it was. So, and there it is again. I can't find just that little amount of throttle. Now, but check this out. Check this out. Hold on, ready? So if all I was going to do is dives, technically what I could do is move the midpoint all the way down. And now watch this. Watch down here. Watch what happens when I move the midpoint all the way down. See it? It's moving that point of sensitivity all the way down. And so if I move the midpoint all the way down to like 2% throttle, which is kind of where I'm at when I'm on the side of these buildings, watch this. And it actually doesn't feel all that bad. Ooh, wow, it feels weird though. Ooh, it does feel weird. Ooh, boy, it feels weird. But watch this. Oh, wow, it feels strange. Here we go. Get in there. See how I can just absolutely lock to the side of this thing. it's making it's really hard to fly it like the, here we go. See that? See how I can just I can move the throttle stick so much more and get tiny little adjustments. And that's basically what the Throttle Expo is doing. It is giving you the ability to move your physical throttle stick more and get a more sensitive adjustment out of it. Man, I can't... It's so hard to fly it like this that I can't even get a dive initiated because I'm living in this world of way too much expo, way too low. Yeah, this is impossible for me to show you, but hopefully you can kind of see it there. And again, if you do these things, do them in Velocidrone. You'll definitely feel the difference. So let's get this midpoint back up. Well, and now, yeah. All right. So let's keep going here. So that's pretty much it. That is wrapping it all up. And just looking at this chart right here is actually really, really, really helpful. This is really going to help you understand it. And again, what I want you to realize is that this yellow line is the output to the motors. So when you pull your throttle up here and you're hanging out in here, you'll be able to see the vertical is the output to the motors. So right now I can move the throttle a bunch, but it's only changing the output to the motors a little bit. And that's this number. Like, look at that. Look how much I can move the throttle. I can move the throttle from 27% and it'll give me 38% motor output. I can move the throttle all the way up to 60%, and I'm only getting 4% more throttle. That's really what I want you guys to understand right there, is that Throttle Expo allows you to move your throttle stick a whole bunch and have the output to the motors be much softer and much more gradual. But it only does that in the range that you've set your midpoint. So at your midpoint, it's going to feel awesome. But then above your midpoint and below your midpoint, it's going to feel like ass. So if you've got a quad where so like a long range rig, right? A long range rig is a perfect example of this. A long range quad, you're going to fly it like around whatever the efficient throttle value is, right? So if it is most efficient at 40% throttle, you can drop your midpoint right here and you are good to go. You can move your throttle stick all the way from 26 up to 60 and you're still going to be within 2% of your efficiency, of your maximum efficiency window, which is 40% throttle output. And again, you need to figure that out by turning the Throttle Expo off. You got to turn the Throttle Expo off at first to figure out where your cruising point is. And then that's what you set as your throttle mid. And then you're going to experiment with it. So let me show you the experiment that you want to do with it. We kind of already did it, but we did it drastically. We did it. We set the throttle midpoint really low, and I showed you. We haven't set the throttle midpoint too high, but it's kind of the same thing. If your midpoint is up at 0.6, stop it. There we go. Yeah, if your midpoint is up at 0.6, I want to show you something. If you fly fast, you'll be good to go. But if you fly your normal, if I fly my normal speed, which is 40, God, it feels so bad. So this is the normal speed that I fly. It's brutal. Like, you can see me bouncing up and down. You can also you can hear it. Like, you can hear how much the motors are reacting. See, like, this is a nightmare. But watch this. If I put the nose down and I get up to 60, oh boy, you can really feel it. When I get up to 60% where the midpoint is, it feels great. And you can also see the difference, right? You can literally see the difference. Look how much smoother I can be. Look how much I can move the throttle up and down. So if you fly really fast, if you fly at a higher cruising value, yeah, you're really going to be able to feel this, guys. Move the midpoint. So, yeah, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. My God, is that noticeable? You put the Throttle Expo amount all the way up. Max it all the way out. And then move your throttle midpoint up and down by either... Initially, move it by 20 points. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to initially put your throttle midpoint... Well, do the test. Figure out where you think yours is. And wherever yours is, it's probably going to be roughly 40%. Set your throttle mid where you think it is. From running around at 0 throttle, put your throttle in your OSD, or just have somebody look at your transmitter, or point a camera at your transmitter, whatever you have to do. And then I want you to turn the Throttle Expo all the way up to 1.0, and I want you to fly it around. And then I want you to take your throttle midpoint and dump it by 0.2. So if you find that your throttle midpoint is 0.4, like me, at your normal cruising speed, I want you to move it down to 0.2 and fly it around a little bit. Then I want you to move the throttle mid all the way up to 0.6, like I just did. And good God, are you going to feel the difference. And then I want you to move it back to 0.4, and I want you to start... so we went from 0.4 to 0.2 to 0.6. Then I want you to go from 0.4 to 0.3 to 0.5. And then I want you to go from 0.4 to 0.35 to 0.45, right? I want you to make big steps first so that you can really hopefully feel it. And then I want you to make incrementally smaller steps. Once you get to 5 points, it's not that... I can't tell the difference less than 5 points, really. So once you get to that 5 point up and down, it's going to be harder to tell. Just guess. Like, you're so close to being perfect at that point that you're good to go. Maybe at that point, like, really think about the spot that you're flying at to do the tests. And if it's a small spot that you're flying at, make your throttle midpoint 5 points higher, because that'll cover you when you go to the bigger spots, right? If you're flying a really big spot, make your throttle mid 5 points lower, so that when you fly smaller spots, you don't have to adjust it. Like, ideally, you don't have to adjust it every single location that you fly. It's pretty easy to adjust, but yeah, in my opinion, you don't want to be making adjustments every single time you fly. You want to have a rig that's versatile enough to just go rip. So yeah, that's what I suggest. I really do think that you're going to tell the difference. Oh, God, I almost forgot. So we've done all of this to dial in the throttle midpoint. Once we have the throttle midpoint dialed in, because, right, we've been doing this with the Expo amount maxed out, just so that it's super obvious. Once you have your throttle midpoint figured out, let me actually do it. Let me see if I can tell a difference between 40 and 45. So I've got it at 40. Let's take a look. Woo! In Velocidrone, one of the cheats is when you get really low to the ground, the props draw on the left and right side of the screen. So ideally, you try to keep the props drawn the whole time. That means you're flying crazy close to the ground. All right, so that's 40. So you're gonna feel a difference. Yeah, I should be able to feel that difference. So now it's down to 35. Let's see. Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, so like right now, so I went from 40 to 35. Right now I'm flying kind of slow down the street. If I go a little bit faster... Yeah, you can totally feel it. You can feel 5 points difference. Now let me go 10 points up to go 5 points the other way, right? Advanced drone setup. So we're gonna go up to 45. And again, it is dependent upon how fast that you fly. See how much more jumpy I am? We've gone in the wrong direction. See that? See how much worse that is? So that's worse for this slow flying, but if I put the nose down, now it's better. Look at that. Look at that. So there you go. There is a perfect example of the fact that you can tell a difference on that midpoint. Getting back to it though, so I'm going to bring this back down to 0.4. The expo amount that you run is the last kind of thing, and this is just on you. 0.2 is a really good safe value that is not going to burn you. And it's going to give you a little bit of a curve, but it's going to feel very normal for you. Maybe start at 0.2 and then gradually increase it. Like I said, I like it at somewhere between 0.2 and 0.4. Let's come back here, and you'll probably be able to tell a difference. So this is just more like what I'm used to, which is why I'm able to swing this. But the nice thing is, it's not going to keep me off the side of buildings. It's not going to prevent me from doing dives at 1% throttle. Like, see, I still have good throttle resolution there. So it's all about compromises. The Throttle Expo is one massive compromise. And the midpoint, now the midpoint is about compromise, because the midpoint is going to compromise your cruising speed. If you set the midpoint too high, the Throttle Expo is going to work well at faster cruises. If you set it too low, it's going to work better at slower cruises, right? So there is compromise to the midpoint for sure. But there is massive compromise with the expo amount itself, with how much of an S you put in that curve. The least amount of compromise is to turn it off and just to have linear, because then it's all on you. You have to do all the work. If you're not a super seasoned pilot with 10,000 plus batteries behind you, your flying is going to look a lot better using Throttle Expo. If you use 0.2, that's a super safe value. It is going to make a difference, but it doesn't make a drastic difference. When you get up to 0.3, 0.4, it really starts to make a difference. Try 0.5 and 0.6 and 0.7. I mean, try 1.0. Try maxing it out, because you really do need to understand and feel and connect with what it's doing. But you're never going to leave it up that high. The most that I think you're ever going to want is like 0.5 or 0.6. And that would really only work on like a Cinewhoop, something that you're not using, you're not spending much time at the top and the bottom of the throttle. What I want you to take a look at, so this is another way of doing this. I want you to watch my throttle. I'm going to fly around normal. And I want you to watch the throttle, and I want you to notice how much time do I spend and where do I spend it. Do I spend a lot of time here? Do I spend a lot of time here? Do I spend a lot of time here? Or do I spend a lot of time in the whole goddamn range? Because that is really gonna link up with how much Throttle Expo you can add. A Cinewhoop, you're gonna pretty much fly a Cinewhoop in here the entire time. The whole battery, you're gonna be right in here with a Cinewhoop. So on a Cinewhoop, you can add a lot of Throttle Expo because you spend so much time in this little area here. A freestyle rig, you're gonna see in a minute, I'm gonna use this whole fucking range. So here, watch. And that's why on a freestyle rig, I don't add as much Throttle Expo, because when on a freestyle rig, if there's on any rig, if you have a lot of Throttle Expo dialed in, there's gonna be a tremendous sacrifice at the top and the bottom of the throttle. The middle is gonna, your midpoint is gonna feel great wherever that is, but then the bottom is gonna feel like shit and the top is gonna feel like shit. So watch this and take note, and this is all shit that you wanna do for yourself. Take note of how much of the throttle throw that I'm using. Ready? And I'm gonna fly like regular freestyle. We're actually gonna go back to that Polyworld map. I'm done with these buildings. Because that was a pretty cool map, and this Polyworld map is a good example of like a real spot, because it is a real spot. So here we go. Turn this back on. I'm gonna make sure that I still have the Throttle Expo. So the midpoint is at 45. The Throttle Expo is at 1. I'm gonna turn this back down to like a semi-normal amount, which for a freestyle rig. Let's do 0.3. We'll do 0.3 for a freestyle rig. I'm gonna pull this midpoint down to 0.4. All right? So this is much more similar to my normal setup. And yeah, just notice how much of the throttle throw that I use. Cool? Not so much with the throttle blips. I mean, the throttle blips are always going to be there. It's more like... So kind of ignore the throttle blips. And just focus on like when I'm actually laying into the throttle. So like, for example, when I want to generate a bunch of ground speed, because there's a big parking lot, I'm going to be sitting up here high in the throttle. And if I have a ton of Throttle Expo, this is going to suck. But then, it's because how versatile freestyle rigs are. But then, if I fly over here into this building, Jesus. If I fly over here into this building and I want to hit like this tiny little window gap, I'm going to be down at the bottom. Or if I just want to fly slowly, look, I'm hanging out at the bottom of the throttle this whole time. And if I'm doing a dive, I'm going to be way down at the bottom of the throttle. Look, down at the bottom. This is the reality of flying freestyle, right? You're kind of all over the place. Now I'm back outside, and I want to shrink the space, and now I'm deep up in the top of the throttle. So for me to run a lot of Throttle Expo, it's going to hurt me. Woo! It's going to hurt me when I'm going fast, and it's going to hurt me when I'm going slow. But it's going to be nice when I'm at my normal, like, whatever cruise, right around here. And we do spend more time, each one of us, I mean, it's different, right? Like, you might fly freestyle always at your cruise RPM. That's some shit that you need to figure out. I can't necessarily help you with that. But yeah, and this all applies to regular Expo as well on your rates. Get in that slot. Oh, slot life, almost. I mean, there was no slot to get in, but hopefully that makes sense. I know I just hit you guys with a lot, but I want you to really understand the only way to wrap your head around The midpoint and the amount of expo is to like really understand what the hell they're doing, because they bleed over onto each other more than you'd think. And so like if you don't have your midpoint nailed down, you're gonna have a really hard time figuring out how much expo you want. And the reverse is true. If you've got your expo amount all the way up to 1.0, getting the midpoint set properly is gonna kind of suck, because there's gonna be it's gonna fly so bad at the bottom and the top of the throttle that you're gonna, the midpoint is just gonna be very sensitive. So you're gonna go out and you're gonna fly and you're gonna cruise at 25 miles an hour and the midpoint's gonna feel awesome. You're gonna go to a different spot and you're gonna cruise at 30 miles an hour and it's gonna feel terrible, because you've got too much expo in. You've got too much of a curve. And when you've got too much of a curve, it's only going to feel good at one very specific throttle opening, like we were seeing between 38% and 42%. 38 to 42% throttle, it felt fucking great. It actually felt too dead. But man, you could like adjust a millimeter of elevation at a time. But everywhere else in the throttle throw, it feels bad because, again, no free lunches, right? That curve spikes violently upwards. So yeah, man, play with your Throttle Expo. And Velocidrone is what you want to use to wrap your head around this shit and to learn what changing those throttle values feels like. You cannot take any of the actual values from Velocidrone and dump them into your real rigs. You've got to do this exercise all over again on your real rigs, but start in the simulator, because you need to be able to feel what it does, and it will just feel good. Like you'll see, like when you get it locked in, it will feel so good. And fly low to the ground, like I showed you, fly really low to the ground. That's the best way, because when you're low to the ground, the elevation changes that you make are very obvious. So make sure that when you're testing this stuff, you're skimming the earth. When you get these dialed in, you will drop down on the deck and you will feel a sense of control that you have never experienced before. You'll probably notice that when you've got the expo amount up at like 0.3 or 0.4 or 0.5 or even at 1.0, because you will be able to move that throttle stick a couple percent at a time and nothing will happen. And you'll just be like, damn, I'm the smoothest motherfucker on earth. That's what you want to feel. That's the thing that I want you to like lock in on and then back off of. Because that feeling that you get probably means that you have a little bit too much Throttle Expo in there. So I want you to be able to take a step back and take some Throttle Expo out while understanding that, you know, I personally use, and maybe you don't, but me personally, when I fly freestyle, I use the top of the throttle and the bottom of the throttle. So I don't want to sacrifice the top sensitivity on the top and the bottom for that sensitivity in the middle on a freestyle rig. On a cinematic rig, a Cinewhoop, on a tiny whoop even, you can make more of a sacrifice and you can run more Throttle Expo. But mess around with them. They're in the OSD. They are in... Where are they in the OSD? Let's take a look. I have a couple of tiny whoop batteries that are charged. I'll show you exactly where they are. It's really helpful to use this on the high KV tiny whoop motors. It really, really, really is. It makes a big, 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 big difference. And if you're going to go chase the RC drift cars, you need to be using Throttle Expo. You will not be able to stay up close to them without Throttle Expo, I promise you. It is an absolute necessity. Because with those little RC drift cars, they are they're only like 2 inches tall. So you're you need to change your elevation by like 2-3 inches at a time, and that's really difficult. All right, it's coming up. Cool. So left stick to the left, right stick forward to get into the menu. You're gonna come to profile, right stick to the right to enter the profile screen. And then I believe it's in rate. So you go into the, I'm gonna go left stick left to go back. So you scroll down here to rate, you go right stick to the right, and you can just scroll to the bottom, or you can see throttle mid at the very bottom. But to save scrolling down all the way to the bottom, what you can actually do is just go up. And then by going up, it'll take you to the second page, right? There's 2 pages of this menu. First page, second page. So here's your Throttle Expo, and here's your throttle mid. And I've got my throttle mid at 38. And that allows me to crash into everything. That allows me to really stick to the earth. And you can see I've got the weird jello situation going on in this thing. Some vibrations. You can see I've got the throttle value in my OSD off on the right there. 29, 30, 40, 30, 33, 41. So yeah, when you get this Throttle Expo set just right... Oh, farts. You can kind of get... Okay. I'm good, I'm good! Man, Maggie's the best. Yeah, when you get it set just right, you don't make huge sacrifices at the top or the bottom of the throttle. You know, still crash a lot, but it lets you do this stuff where you can just skim the ground. But again, it's just remember that you can absolutely add too much of it. If you add too much Throttle Expo, everything else you do other than skimming the ground is gonna suck. Ah!
30
Makes sense? So like, for example, right, when I take these tiny whoops that I have like really well dialed in for inside the house here, outside, this throttle midpoint is completely wrong. And it does not feel right outside. Oh, fart.
20 seconds.
Look, we got this upstairs area all pimped out now. Ah! Questions? Comments? What do you guys think? Any of this make any sense?
10, 9,
Oh my god. Oh my goodness, I closed my eyes. It came so close to me.
6,
I'm having a hard time adjusting from the sim to this.
5,
What is this thing? It's sounding like awful rough. What is, what's going on here? Oh, there's a big clump of hair in here. That ain't gonna help. I feel like maybe there's one motor that's... Oh boy. Motor number 1 is vibey as hell. Good God, yeah, motor number 1's got some issues. I think it's just the propeller. I think the propeller's just wrecked. That's okay. What do you think, friends? Does that all make sense? Let me dive into chat real quick.
telemetry lost.
Really? Veritas Wooza says hi. No, hold on. Go back farther. Dan Richmond says, my secret cheat code is curves on 3-way switch on Tyrannus for 100%, 70%, 50%, and for whoops I have one that is centered around the hover point and very zoomed in. Setting up things on a switch, different profiles, different stuff like that. It's not a bad idea at all. I personally don't do it because I want to try to just have as few as possible sort of amounts of muscle memory. So by having changes on a switch, every time you change the switch, you have to develop another muscle memory for that particular setting. What I do instead of that is I try to find a middle point, and I also try to match all of my rigs up. I try to get the throttle feel to be as similar as possible on this shit as all these guys. So that as many of my quads feel as similar as possible for as much time as they sort of can, if that makes sense. Having different setups on a switch is really good for testing them and understanding and trying to figure out which one you want. But my recommendation is that you try to find the best midpoint where you get some extra throttle resolution, but not at the cost of X or Y or Z. So yeah, the putting stuff on a switch is a really cool idea. And I've done it a bunch. It's one of the ways that I learned to PID tune. I would put different PID tunes, not on a switch, but easily changeable PID tunes, which is basically what we're doing by putting stuff on a switch, right? We're making it very easy to change in between it. And yeah, I could change from PID profile 1 to 2 to 3 and very quickly see the difference in flight characteristics. So yeah, that's a really good idea, Veritas Weasel. I would Dan, I would just suggest maybe that you try to, first thing would be to take it from 3 to 2, right? Try to just have 2 different profiles and then eventually try to just have one, so that you can just even everything out and have all your stuff feel as similar as possible together. Veritas Weasel charged a bunch of 1S HV batteries to full capacity and started to rain. How long can I leave these things at 435 without an issue? I've got 2 that have been charged for a week now. You don't want to do that. You want to get them discharged as soon as possible. But like, if I'm going to fly them 2 days later, I'll just leave them. It's fine. Cinewhoop batteries are fairly cheap anyway. And new batteries just fly so good that like, oh damn, I ruined an $8 battery by leaving it charged. I'll have to get a fresh one that's going to fly so much better than this one that's only got 20 cycles. So yeah, a couple days is usually fine. I try not to leave anything charged for more than a week. But if you do, it's not the end of the world. It just means that you will get to buy fresher batteries sooner. There you go. Winder says hi. Come on. God damn it, YouTube. Your chat is awful. Hold on, let me move it over here. Winder says, how much RPM in air mode are you using for a Cinewhoop? Even if I did know the answer to that, it wouldn't help you at all, because every single Cinewhoop is completely different. So every single Cinewhoop is going to have a different payload, a different all-up weight, a different set of motors, a different set of propellers, and all of those things are going to feed into how much RPM. I mean, first of all, like, air mode doesn't really have an RPM. Like, yeah, like, air mode is air mode. You turn air mode on or you turn air mode off. You should turn it on. You want to use air mode. But yeah, even if I could somehow give you that number, it wouldn't do anything for you, because your rig is going to be completely different than mine. You go from a 3-blade prop to a 5-blade prop, yeah, everything kind of changes. So yeah, unfortunately, to be honest, I don't even understand the question, because you can't set an RPM in air mode. Air mode is just either on or off. So Winder, if you didn't mean to say air mode, tag me again and ask the question with different words. But yeah, Denzel the Terrible says, thanks, I really appreciate the understanding of how Mid and Expo work. You're certainly welcome. Winder says, very cool. Denzel the Terrible says, be like me and use CiottiFPV's affiliate link at GetFPV. Get your links here at CiottiFPV.com. Thank you, dude. Okay, cool. We caught up on chat. And was there something else? No, Q&A. Was there something else we were going to do? I don't think so. I don't have any mail. We looked at another shout out to T-Motor for sending the Velox V3s over. We're going to get these onto the test bed rig at some point here and see how they are. That'll be fun. I am still looking for the 4-port version of this Lumineer Paragard. I will trade you for this 6-port, or I will just buy it from you. Ask your friends, yo. This is what it looks like. The 4-port version of this looks exactly like this. I'm covering up the bottom. The numbers 5 and 6. I really would like this for my travel rig. So yeah, ask your friends if they have the white. This is the only white parallel board. Ask your friends if they've got the white parallel board, and if they do, if they have the 4-port version, and make it well worth their while. I promise. Get your Brain 3D solder station over at Brain 3D. I don't have an affiliate link over there yet, but just throw in the comments that Ciotti sent you. This thing is super awesome. This is such a great little soldering desk here. It's got little nylon standoffs here that you slot into these center jibby jabbies for 20 by 20, 25 by 25, or 30 by 30. So it's going to hold your PCB down on standoff, so it's nice and solid. And then you can use the little helping hands to hold the wires. It's a really nice setup. There's a couple of holes. My contribution to this are these holes here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are 90-degree through holes so that you can feed some solder in here, and then it pokes out here. So you've got a little piece of solder sticking up here, typically on the right side. You've got a little piece of solder sticking up here, so that you can just bring the tip of your soldering iron down on it to tin the tip of the soldering iron. So yeah, there's that. All kinds of stuff. Ooh, that just popped off. Yeah, really, really cool stuff. I really dig this. Yeah, Larry? What else, friends? Michael Kajas says, what kind of batteries do you use for goggles? On my Fat Sharks, I use the Fat Shark battery because I love that I can plug it into USB and charge it. On HD goggles, I run this GNB 3S 2000. It's got the barrel plug. Small, simple, easy, lasts for a long time. I got a little bit of the hockey grip tape on it just so it doesn't fall out of the goggle strap. Nothing too crazy. I have a couple of these. I don't like doing the battery in the pocket thing. I don't love the idea of having a lipo, a big lipo in my pocket, because if it explodes, then my dick will get burned off. So, you know, that's just me though. Yeah. I think that's all I got for you today, friends. I'm gonna go get a bite to eat. I'm super hungry. I've been yawning because I didn't have much to eat yet today. Tomorrow night we're gonna live stream at 8 o'clock. I promise I'm gonna remember. I might remember. I'll either see you at 8 o'clock tomorrow night or 10 o'clock. Probably 8 o'clock. Hopefully 8 o'clock. Take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. I know you don't have much time left, but do something cool for yourself tonight. Stevie with the last comment of the live stream, coming at us from Salt Lake City, Utah. He says, hey AC, cool and in demand. You've been using Throttle Expo for some time. I noticed I tried 0.2 to 0.25 just above hover to help settle in to a stop smoother. Thanks. There you go. The 0.2 to 0.25 is a super safe amount that does have an impact. It for sure helps things out. It's nowhere near as noticeable as 0.4 or 0.5. But yeah, 0.2 to 0.25 I would almost recommend for everyone to use, but you still got to get your center point set. You still got to get your center point dialed in for each individual rig. Do not forget that. Do not skip that step. Don't have a throttle midpoint and an expo amount that you just put on all your quads. That's not a good idea unless all of your quads are identical. So keep that in mind. This does take some tweaking, but yeah, we covered how to tweak it. So go get some Throttle Expo going, friends, and then tomorrow night, maybe you'll have a question or two about it, or maybe you'll be frustrated about it, and we can dive in a little bit more. Cool? See you guys tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, or 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Here's some more flying from the basement when I was just starting to figure out how amazing chasing little RC drift cars is. I think, let me see, what is this? Are you going to play, or are you just going to sit there and stare at me? Apparently it's just going to sit there and stare at me. Let's pick some music for our little outro here. I don't think this is me chasing. I think this is me just railing around, but that's okay. Synthesized Dreams. Well, I'm down with this. Yeah, okay, okay. Be good, friends. See you tomorrow night.